Hey guys, this is the Integrated Science Unit 3, Skill 1, Atoms and Elements, and this is the part 1, the first part about this. So welcome to the chemistry part of the course. So for the rest of the year, we're going to be talking about atoms and what they do and why they do it. So let's get started. First thing we need to talk about is matter. What the heck is it? So matter is anything that has mass, which we measure in grams, and it takes up space, which you can do liters. You might also see different measurements. Mass you might see in kilograms when we have the physics unit. Now for chemistry, we're going to do grams. It's smaller, so it's a little easier because you can just get it on the scale in the classroom. Liters, like you measure that when you pour soda, you might get a 2-liter bottle. You also might see centimeters cubed or meters cubed, so it's how much space something actually takes up. So things that are matter. You are matter. Air is matter. Some people confuse that because they think they're not touching anything, but you're actually touching a whole bunch of molecules when you touch air. Remember, we talked about air pressure in physics. So air is pushing down on you, so there's definitely something there. So it is matter. Water is matter. So those are things that have mass, they take up space. Things that are not matter are energy, thoughts, sound. So anything that is energy, basically. All right, so I've got here some examples of things that are matter, and they're things that people think of as chemicals because we have a chemical formula for it or it's a compound. So I've got some mercury 2 oxide, some sucrose, some sulfur, copper 2 sulfate pentahydrate, sodium chloride, and copper. So any sample can be described by its characteristics or properties. And if you have a specific type of matter, it's going to have a specific type of properties. Some of the things that you might describe matter with when we're in chemistry might be its color, right? Only one of these things is blue. Now, that's not saying that copper 2 sulfate pentahydrate is the only blue thing in nature, but you might say out of these substances I have here, which one is blue? You might describe a sample based on its volume. Now, its volume can change based on if you have more stuff or less stuff, but for a specific sample, one of its characteristics is definitely going to be how much size it takes up. And the melting point. So if something goes, if you're heating it from a solid and you're getting it to a liquid, that is the melting point. If it is a specific substance, then there is a specific temperature at which it will melt, and that will always be the same for that substance. So it's definitely a characteristic or a property of a certain type of matter. All right, elements. What is an element? Elements are pure substances that cannot be separated into simpler substances by physical or chemical means. And you know that all of those have a very specific set of properties. So if you have a sample of carbon, then that's going to be very different than a sample of aluminum, right? So like here's gold. Gold has very specific properties. It's got that luster, it's shiny, it's got this very specific golden color, right? Versus chlorine. I would hate to have some necklace made out of chlorine gas. First of all, the gas, so it's not going to make a very good necklace. Also, chlorine is incredibly toxic when you breathe it in. Chlorine is something that is a key component in chemical warfare, so it is very toxic and it's very painful to breathe it in. Obviously, very different things, gold and chlorine, right? Both of those are elements. So if I have a sample of pure gold, so like 24 karat gold, not 14 karat or 10 karat, 18 karat, those are not pure, but pure gold, all of it is going to be all the same characteristics. It's going to have the same melting point, boiling point, color, all of that. Versus chlorine is a different element, so it has different properties. Versus bromine. Bromine's a totally different element as well. So again, different properties. Mercury I've got hidden over here in the corner. Mercury is one of those really cool ones. Mercury is a metal. It is the only metal that is a liquid at room temperature. That's why it used to be used for teeth fillings because it was a metal, nice and strong, and they could just pour it right into once you took out the cavity and they would put a cap over it. They no longer use mercury because it makes people go crazy. So good thing not to put in people's teeth because it can get easily absorbed into the blood system. You might have heard of Mad Hatters, right, from Alice in Wonderland. It was actually a real disease. People used to use mercury to clean feathers on hats, and thus the Hatter. And mercury poisons the nerves and makes people go crazy. So Mad Hatter syndrome comes from mercury. Nobody gets Mad Hatter syndrome from gold, right? You're not gonna get that from bromine or chlorine. It's specific to this element. So this is about to be your best friend for the rest of the marking period or the rest of the school year. So this is the periodic table of elements, and all the known elements are listed on the periodic table. So you can see hydrogen, lithium, beryllium, sodium, magnesium, they're all here for you. Now this is a bit of an older periodic table, so you'll see some right here that hadn't been named at that point. They were just estimated, but I really like this periodic table, so I don't want to take it out, but those actually are elements now. We have found them. Each element is given a 1 or 2 letter symbol, right? So boron here, see how it's got that capital B? That's its symbol. Versus if I go to neon, it has 2 letters. So neon has a 2-letter symbol. The first letter only is capitalized, and that's how you know if you see a list which one starts a new element. As soon as you see another capital letter, that's a new element. So for example, carbon is C. So if I look here, this element C is carbon. So I can either say carbon or I can use the capital C to abbreviate it. So what element is Cl? So we know that this is one element because I've got a capital C and a lowercase l, which can be confusing sometimes if you think it's a capital I, but just with me if you have any questions. This is one element, and you got to look around. You're going to get familiar with this, and you'll find here chlorine is Cl. What about calcium? What's calcium symbol? So you want to look around the periodic table and see where you see the word calcium. And if we're looking, you're going to scan and you might find it right here, atomic number 20. So calcium symbol is Ca. All right, so best of luck with learning some intro about the elements and getting used to them, and I'll see you in the next set of notes.